The African Development Bank has a mandate to help its regional member countries in following up the clean energy development path. That means that we need to help the African countries move away from what we call the dirty energy to clean energy. But fortunately, on the African continent, we have our potential energy sources are mainly clean. We have, for example, hydropower is very clean energy. We have wind in some parts of the continent, that's clean. We have, of course, a lot of solar. But the only drawback is that some of these sources of energy are a bit expensive. So our role is to ensure that the African countries can access some soft loans or grants, concessional loans, to leverage against the funds available from traditional partners to ensure that the unit cost of the production of the energy from these resources is low. A month ago, the African Development Bank approved a project for South Africa on renewable energy. Basically, the solar energy at Uppington and wind energy at Sere. I think these are known places in South Africa. And these are quite new, and in fact, this is the first of its nature to be approved by the African Development Bank. We also have other projects that we're processing in other countries like Morocco and Egypt. These are three countries that have benefited from what we call the Clean Technology Funds. And as I said earlier on in my introduction, it's important for the African Development Bank to help the African countries to access these funds. And I think the big step we have made is a step in the right direction. So we are happy that we're able to demonstrate that the bank can help African countries acquire or get access to these funds. There are other funds that actually we're also following up, SREP, we call it SREP, Scale Up Renewable Energy Program. And in Africa, we have three countries which have benefited from these funds, namely Ethiopia, Kenya, and Mali. So we are also busy preparing the project proposals for these countries to acquire these funds. They'll be presented to the board maybe this year or next year. In order to access these funds, you need to have what we call an investment program. An investment program that is properly prepared and submitted to the CIFs, the Clean Investment Funds, based in Washington, D.C. Now, most countries have not prepared those plans and therefore cannot access. So what we'll try to do is to sensitize these countries to ensure that they know that these facilities exist. And once they know, then they can start preparing these plans. We can give guidance to these countries, but of course, as we say, knowledge is power. They have to know that they have to prepare these funds. And I think the other challenge I see is within the ministries themselves. They are coordinating bodies in different ministries. You have some in environment, some in energy, some in agriculture. And so they need to know that there must be a well-coordinated planning unit that will ensure that these plans are made and submitted. What has to be understood is that even though we try to get these concessional resources, including our own, clearly the task of increasing access of energy to Africa is quite enormous. We cannot do it only by public sector funding because, you know, we are also competing with other sectors, health, education, etc. So we need actually to involve the private sector. So how do we do it? We need to encourage the countries to create an enabling environment that will allow the private sector to flourish. That is, we need to have regulatory authorities created. We need to also remove the impediments that are an obstacle to the private sector developers.